In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the switch on a Ridgid model 8641 cordless recip saw. Because of the LED light found at the front of this particular model, the repair is a little bit more challenging. There's a lot of disassembly we'll do to the saw. But we'll show you how to do it step by step. Remember, all of the parts you see in this video and many more can be found on our website at eReplacementParts.com. Let's get started. We'll start by removing the shoe and the lever that locks the shoe. Now remove the rubber boot from the front of the saw. Next, I'll go ahead and remove the plastic housing. The LED light in the front of the saw requires a wire that runs the entire length of the saw, so the next step is to remove this side of the metal housing. Now I can begin to pull the switch away from the saw. I'll start with the LED and that long wire. Now we need to desolder these connections on the switch. Before we do, it's a good idea to note the location of each of the wires so reassembly will be a little easier. To do this, I'll use a soldering gun and this cool little tool, commonly called a solder sucker. You just push this plunger down. When you hit this button, it creates a vacuum that pulls the solder away from the connection. Whenever you do any soldering, it's a good idea to wear safety glasses. Here I have our new switch. And something I like to do before I begin installing a new switch is to lay it out next to the old one and just configure the wires as much like the old one as I can. It just makes reassembly a little bit easier. Now we can solder the wires to the new switch. First, I'll insert the wires through the eyelets on the switch terminals and bend the wire back. This could be a little challenging because of the old solder on our wires. Okay, now I'll apply a little bit of paste flux to each connection. This just cleans the metal as we solder, makes for a better connection. And now we can begin soldering. Alright, with the wires soldered to our new switch, we can begin working the switch back into the saw and tucking in all the wires. Now I'll begin tucking in the wire for the LED light. I like to work from the LED back towards the switch. That way if we have any excess wire, we can tuck it away in the handle. Now we'll begin what may be the most challenging part of this repair, and that's replacing the front metal cover. There's a couple of pins that need to be lined up, as well as the shaft and the bearing. Also, on the top of the saw, there's a spring you'll want to be aware of so that it doesn't pop out of the saw while you're doing this. Take your time, and this does require a little patience. With the two halves of the case back together, now I can go ahead and re-secure everything with the screws. Before I put the housing on, I need to reinstall this switch that turns on the LED light. And now the housing. Now I can slide the rubber boot back onto the saw. And we'll finish up by reinstalling the shoe lock lever and the shoe.